my mother, she would be concerned, and probably a lot of the other neighbors would be concerned.
Chris Watts. This harrowing case is reminiscent of the 2014 film Gone Girl, except this time, the husband actually did it.
Last time I talked to her was this morning. She said she's going to take the kids to a friend's house, and that's where she was going to be.
On August 13th, 2018, a pregnant woman named Shannon Watts and her two daughters, Bella and Celeste, were reported missing from their Frederick, Colorado home. By the next day, while an extensive investigation into their disappearance was ongoing, Shannon's husband, Chris Watts, granted an interview to a local news station.
Somebody has her and they're not safe. Like, I want them back now. Like, that's what's in my head. Like, if they're safe right now, they're going to come back.
Watts pleaded for the safe return of his wife and daughters, only to be arrested the very next day for their murders. The oil field worker eventually confessed to the crimes, apparently motivated by a desire to start a new life with his mistress.
There's a reason you feel sick to your stomach. And when people hold stuff inside, it makes you physically ill. And I can just tell on your face, I could tell from the second you walked in that you were wanting to just come clean and just be done with this.
He was handed 5 life sentences without parole. Darren Vickers.
Every time you turned on the television, Vickers would be there.
In May 1997, Jamie Lavis, a schoolboy from Openshaw, Greater Manchester, vanished without a trace. Over the next few days, a man named Darren Vickers befriended Lavis's parents Karen and John, claiming to be a bus driver who was the last to see the boy before he went missing. Vickers wormed his way into the Lavis' lives, appearing on TV as their unofficial spokesperson and participating in searches for the lost child.
By saying he got the backing of the Lavis family, by telling the members of the public via the media that why are the police picking on me because I am the man leading the searches, I am the pillar of strength behind this family.
At some point, he even moved into their house and slept in their bed. It was soon revealed that it was Vickers who had kidnapped the boy and taken his life. 2 years later, after Lavis's body was finally discovered, Vickers received a life sentence for the murder.
What he did to that family, the way that he destroyed that family from within, there's no other word I can find to describe him except evil.
Ian Huntley. Best friends Holly Wells and Jessica Chapman left a family barbecue at Wells's house in Soham, Cambridgeshire in August 2002 and were never seen alive again.
For 2 weeks, police and locals desperately scoured the area. It was every parent's worst nightmare.
There was a sense of real fear and dread in the village. People were starting to get more and more desperate as to what might have happened to these 2 little girls.
Both girls lost their lives after being lured into the house of Ian Huntley, who lived in the local community. For about 2 weeks, Wells and Chapman were thought to be missing, with hundreds of police officers working full-time to find them.
You may, as it turned out, have been the last person to actually chat to them before they vanished.
Yeah, that's what it seems like.
During this period, Huntley appeared on multiple TV networks, granting interviews in which he appeared to speak for the community. Huntley's strange behavior in some of these interviews soon raised suspicions that eventually led to his arrest.
It's very frustrating knowing that we have people that way inclined amongst us and us not knowing who they are. People that way inclined among.
What we've just seen there is a flash of pleasure.
He was found guilty of both murders and received 2 life sentences.
Huntley is currently being held at Frankland High Security Prison.
There can be no doubt in my mind that Huntley really enjoyed the notoriety. He liked being a focus of attention, and he loved being interviewed. It also underlines his utter lack of remorse.
Deborah Kincy.
But I called him as soon as I found her in the kitchen, and I couldn't get any response out of her.
In October 2015, Deborah Kincy of Oakland Park, Florida called 911 to report the discovery of her neighbor's dead body. 64-year-old Charlotte Nicholas had died on her own kitchen floor, reportedly of multiple stab wounds. The following day, Kincy appeared in a teary interview with a news reporter, in which she described the tragic scene she had discovered and her supposedly close relationship with the victim. But it turned out that was far from the truth. Apparently, Kincy and Nicholas had had a heated dispute over jewelry that drove Kincy to murder the retired nurse. Surveillance footage from a local pawn shop showed Kincy selling off Nicholas's jewelry while wearing a blood-stained shirt. she was swiftly arrested on murder charges.
People in the neighborhood describe Kincy as troubled, but say they never imagined something like this.
Gerard Baden-Clay. Gerard Baden-Clay had reported his wife Allison missing on the 20th of April 2012. The two had been married for roughly 15 years and had welcomed 3 daughters in that time. Just a few days later, while authorities searched for Allison in the area around their Queensland, Australia home, Baden-Clay stood before news reporters with tears in his eyes. Alas, they were nothing but crocodile tears.
I'm trying to look after my children at the moment. They've got 3 young girls, and we really trust that the police are doing everything they can to find my wife, and we just hope that she'll come home soon.
At the time, the real estate businessman was just a suspect in the case. But when Allison's body was discovered in a creek 10 days after her disappearance, it quickly became clear that her husband was the culprit.
After a 2-month investigation, on the 13th of June 2012, police arrested 41-year-old Gerard Robert Baden-Clay and charged him with the murder of his 43-year-old wife, Allison.
Apparently, Baden-Clay was having an affair and hoped to cash in on his wife's sizable life insurance policy.
It's a supreme arrogance and feeling that he could just pull the wool over everybody's eyes and they'd buy it.
Neil and Margaret Archer. In 2015, 20-year-old mother of 1 Jody Myers disappeared from her hometown of Mannum, South Australia. Afterwards, her fiancé Neil Archer and his mother Margaret gave multiple TV interviews in which they appealed for Myers to return home.
We miss her, we want her to come home.
Margaret and Neil know the nation is watching, wiping away the tears, playing the part well.
These emotional performances were just that, performances.
This is getting really bad.
In reality, Archer had already murdered Myers and buried her under a concrete slab in his parents' backyard. His mother had helped him cover it up. The two were caught after surveillance cameras showed that they had used Myers' ATM card to withdraw money for the cement used to bury her.
It's the lowest act. They couldn't even use their own money to go and do what they needed to do.
Archer also confessed to his younger brother, who eventually turned him in to the police. Stephen McDaniel.
Are you okay, sir? I think I need to sit down.
Back in 2011, Lauren Giddings was a recent graduate of Mercer Law School who was preparing for the bar exam. Sadly, before she could achieve her dreams of becoming a lawyer, her neighbor and former classmate Stephen McDaniel broke into her apartment and murdered her. After Giddings was reported missing, McDaniel granted an interview to the local news station WGXA, putting on the act of a concerned neighbor and friend.
No one has seen her since Saturday. I haven't seen anything. I mean, you always hear noise outside, but it's just people walking by pretty much.
Things took a bizarre turn halfway into the interview when McDaniel learned that some of Giddings' remains had been discovered.
Howdy. Had you heard it? Had you seen anything there?
This strange interview, coupled with incriminating evidence found on his computer, were all police needed to bring him in for questioning. McDaniel eventually pleaded guilty and was sentenced to life. Christy Abrahams. It's an image that could bring almost anyone to tears. The mother of a missing child stands before a bevy of reporters but can't stop crying long enough to speak. In this case, that mother was Christy Abrahams, whose daughter Kaisha had supposedly disappeared from the Sydney, Australia home they shared with Abraham's partner Robert Smith.
Do you understand it? Can they please contact the police?
But the case turned out to be far more deceptive than what was portrayed. Abrahams had repeatedly behaved violently towards her daughter, culminating in one incident that tragically took the girl's life. Together with Smith, she burned and disposed of Kaisha's remains before falsely reporting her missing.
Probably one of the saddest cases I've ever worked on. It was a very, very hard investigation.
Abrahams and Smith were eventually convicted and handed varying prison sentences.
Responsibilities of parents is to look after your kids and give them a chance.
Matthew Haverly. When the body of a woman was found in a creek in Wyalusing Township, Pennsylvania, it didn't take long for reporters to turn up in the area, interviewing local residents.
I'm like, what the hell's going on? And now I realize that's what they were actually doing. I had no clue.
One such person was Matthew Haverly, who initially expressed shock at the strange occurrence.
It's sad to say that that's someone's either daughter, mother, whatever, both, child.
Then, Haverly began offering theories as to what could have happened to the woman, and even talked about how concerning the situation would be for his mother.
I'm guessing like my mother, she would be concerned, and probably a lot of the other neighbors would be concerned.
Bizarrely, the body found was that of Haverly's mother, Patricia, who had been murdered by Haverly himself just hours earlier. The same day the interview was given, Haverly was arrested by police. After claiming to have blacked out during the incident, Haverly pleaded no contest to involuntary manslaughter. Stuart Hazell. In August of 2012, Tia Sharp was reported missing from her grandmother's home in New Addington, South London.
Stuart Hazell played the part of the loving grandfather, and he has just carried out the ultimate betrayal.
At the time, Sharp's grandmother, Christine Bicknell, lived in the house with her then-boyfriend, Stuart Hazell, who soon became a person of interest in her disappearance. On August 9th, Hazell appeared in an interview that ITV News had conducted with Sharp's family and denied any involvement in her disappearance.
Well, if they believe what they read in the papers, they can do whatever they like, because I know deep down in my heart that Tia walked out of my house. She walked out there, and I know damn well because she was seen walking down the pathway. I know she made that track down to that way. What happened after that is I don't know.
The very next day, however, Sharp's body was discovered in her grandmother's house, and Hazell was eventually arrested for her murder.
When we went back on that Friday morning, immediately the officers went into the house. They could smell a very strong smell.
Incriminating pictures and videos of the girl were found in Hazell's possession. He pleaded guilty to the murder and received a life sentence.